And community news, interesting guests and discussions, plus a local events calendar. SJ, Stone Go, Gary 5 Tahoe Jifkidos, Mvskoke Radio, Mavo Hedge to Wedskits. Welcome to our program here on this beautiful morning here. Getting through winter time. It's into February now, and hopefully it'll be a short, easy one to deal with. We've got several things we'll be sharing with you. First of all, we want to talk with Tony York from the Eufaula Dorm to see how that educational facility is doing, students, the challenges they face, and things like that. We also have the State of the Nation, as spread by our Principal Chief, David Hill, and we have scheduled to talk about storm warning system down in Okemah. But first of all, let's get on with the Eufaula Dorm. Hold on. Mr. York, you with us, sir?
Yes, good morning.
Okay, thank you for making time for us. We have all been kind of watching and wondering what's going on with our school system in light of the COVID pandemic that's been plaguing us. We were hoping that all of our students are doing well, but sometimes it just doesn't work that way. For the benefit of those folks who are not familiar with the Eufaula Dorm, why don't you give us a real quick capsule of what that's all about?
Yes, sir. The Eufaula Dormitory is, we're a program that provides, opportunities for Native students, and we're a residential facility. Our students, we serve students grades 1st through 12th, students, all Native students within, our service area, which is 200 miles from the dorm, are eligible to enroll. And our students attend public school, but they reside at the dorm, and we provide all the wraparound services for extracurricular activities, health, behavioral health, tutoring, and services like these, sir. It provides a good environment where the students can learn. We offer classes on Native language and youth wellness, diabetes prevention, and so basically we're a BIE-funded residential facility for Native students.
Now, the concept of this type of dormitory has often been cloaked with the phrase boarding schools. Is there any difference between what Eufaula does and is and the more traditionally thought of boarding school?
Sir, in my opinion, how I would define that is, I believe boarding schools was an old term, and originally boarding schools were not voluntary, and there was a lot of mismanagement and abuse, and so I think that today, that the tribes have taken over the boarding schools in many instances. In ours, our Eufaula Dorm is tribally controlled, which means the tribe operates and manages it, and so I feel like they have taken something that may have began as negative and turned it into a wonderful, positive opportunity for the Native youth today.
One more question in the same light of the last one. Some of those schools had reputations that weren't very positive or quite negative, and we hear many people even today who attended some of those schools of mistreatment and punishments and things like that. You are familiar with those kinds of stories, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, does any of that apply to Eufaula?
No, sir. Actually, the Eufaula Dorm, it was actually created. There's a brief history of the dorm on the tribe's website. And it was created by the tribe, and I, to my knowledge, have never heard of any, of any such happenings at the Eufaula Dorm historically. Couldn't say for sure, but I've definitely heard the stories of in other facilities, and historical trauma is very real, and we try to acknowledge that at the dorm, and just like I said, we try to keep moving forward with to inspire and provide these youth some opportunities. But to my knowledge, the Eufaula Dorm has never been one of those mandatory facilities where the historical trauma occurred.
Well, that's so wonderful to hear. That's those subjects are kind of easy meat for many filmmakers and documentary talking about the horrors of the schools, but that's not always been the case. Now, the Eufaula Dorm serves primarily students from the rural areas. Is that right?
Sir, to be honest, we have a pretty good mix. We service the communities of Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Okemah, Mvskoke. So we do have some urban students as well. I would say there's a pretty good mix. There's probably more rural students than urban, but we have a pretty good mixture of students from a lot of different areas and backgrounds. Absolutely.
So they get
one time.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, sir. I was going to say, I believe it was last year. I think we counted it up, and we were actually serving about 14 communities.
And so there's a real socialization process going on with these kids from all these areas getting to know each other and what their lives are like and things like that.
Yes, sir. It's really wonderful to see these lifelong friendships that these students make while they're at the dorm. A couple years ago, we had a Eufaula Dorm all-school reunion over the summer, and it was a great success. We had, individuals from, the last, 40, 50 years. There were students from many decades, from all ages that came to reunite and, see each other and see the dorm. And so, yes, sir, it definitely is a social experience. A lot of our kids are what I call legacies. Their parents or grandparents attended the dorm, and they want their students to have that same opportunity to make those friendships and connections with other Native students. Will
there be any differences in perhaps in the social environments? These kids are housed in a residential situation together, as opposed to other students who might be, just from the regular public school kind of clientele, so to speak. Is there any difference there at all?
I would say that our students have an advantage. They have each other. That kind of social unity. In today's schools, you have bullying and these social networks and a lot of things that kids face. And so I think that, yes, that being at the dorm and having those, having those friendships and having those roommates and support from our staff is definitely in their favor. So I would say that, there is a difference, and, it's a positive difference.
How about academically now? The students who live there in the dorm attend the Eufaula public schools. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And
yes, sir.
In doing so, they would get the usual state mandated curriculums and things like that, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, our students have every opportunity that a public school student would have and more. They are eligible to participate in any extracurricular activities, sports, VOAG or et cetera at the public school. Academically, we've had a lot of success. Our students, we have around about a 70% retention rate. We have a 100% passing rate for seniors, and academically, we've done really well. Before the pandemic hit, actually we had been working on our academic program and had hit a milestone. The year before last, every single student passed every class, at the dorm. First time that we had accomplished that. So, academically, we're moving in the right direction. The pandemic has definitely been a snag. It has created a lot of problems, not just for dorm students, but students nationwide. That the virtual learning has been a challenge.
Right. The state of Oklahoma is in a battle with the Tulsa public schools over the same things. Now, let me ask a question or two kind of on the flip side of that. It's wonderful that we can talk about the successes, but what about the challenges? Separation from family, of course, has got to be in there, but does that get reflected academically? I mean, have they been able to keep their grades up, so to speak?
Yes, Yeah, that is a good question. One thing that the dorm did several years back was we went to what we call a 5-day dorm, which means we transport our students home every weekend. Gary, we just feel like that way they can still be a part of their family, still be a part of their community, but still take advantage of what the dorm offers. And so yes, homesickness is definitely for first-time students it can definitely be a factor and affect academics, but we have a team of counselors and tutors, to try to help remedy that as best we can.
Can you give me an idea of how they are stacking up against other students in the state right now?
I would say quite well. Like I said, the last, I believe, 4 years, every senior that's completed the program has graduated, and all have the option to go to college should they choose. The students that graduate from the dorm, we have a scholarship available to them. And have people to help them apply for other scholarships. And a number of our students, a majority attend the College of the Mvskoke Nation. Some go straight from our dorm to theirs. It's a great transition. And, so I feel compared to other kids in the state that our students are performing quite well, if not, at least with our passing rate, I would say better than the average, than the population as a whole. Yes, sir.
Okay, well, let me ask you one more dark question. Now, what about a failure rate? Are there some of them that just having trouble and they just aren't making it right now?
Yes, sir. We do have students. This year I can most definitely say, sir, that a failure that we faced was that all of our elementary students failed the first semester. They were all in virtual learning. It was new to them, and it was difficult. Our elementary students is probably our smallest population, but to try to remedy that, we have now we're transporting those students on campus, with all the precautions that can be taken, not to our campus, but to the public school twice a week for in-person directed study, and to try to get caught up in their virtual learning and have that in-person learning to keep them, try to get them passing and be successful.
Can you kind of describe the, with the word requirements at work there, eligibility, who comes to this school?
Yes, sir. So to enroll at our school, basically it's any Native student, if you're a member of a federally recognized tribe, if you are in grades 1st through 12th, over the age of 5 and under the age of 18, and you live within our service area, we go about 200 miles in any direction from the dorm, then you're eligible to apply, sir. The only time that a student may not be accepted is if they have, behavioral health needs that we may not be able to accommodate. We always have to consider the safety of our current students, and when we're accepting new students, but we encourage all to apply. Yes, sir.
Now, who do you report to? Is it the Tribal Department of Education, the state, possibly some federal programs?
Yes, sir. I report to the Dr. Monty Randall at the Department of Education at Mvskoke Creek Nation, and we are funded and also have grant representatives at the Bureau of Indian Education.
Okay, now that agency has been struggling for the past few years. Do you have any problems in connecting and funding to dealing with their standards and things like that?
Oh gosh, Gary, we could always use more funding. And I am aware that the BIE has been under some criticism, but as far as accessibility, they've been very supportive to our program, and have been pretty good partners to us. I agree that we could definitely use some more funding and facility upgrades and things of that nature. And I think everyone that's relying on federal funding for that is in the same boat. You have to wait your turn. But overall, I would say they've been a pretty good partner to us.
Yeah, and you accept federal money, you have to play by their rules, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's one of the advantages, sir, of us being a tribally controlled school. Is that we have more flexibility than, say, some of the Bureau-ran schools like Riverside and Anadarko. As a tribally controlled school, we do, as a sovereign nation, we have more input into how our school is ran and operated. Now,
this sounds like wonderful reinforcement for a basic educational challenge. What about? Oh gosh, I forgot where I was going here. You've got the challenge there. You're dealing with that now. What about I guess the rest of the society there? Is there any problems or nasty surprises coming from the students from other areas and homes and things like that? It sounds like there might be a potential for some separation and some negativity there.
Yes, sir. I think that anytime you're working with children, that potential is always there. And it's me and the staff at the Eufaula Dorm, we work really hard to foster a positive environment. We want a family environment. So yes, sir. We have sometimes we have kids that have experienced a lot of trauma in their life, and we just have to do what we can. We try to provide best behavioral health services. We have a lot of good partners within the tribe with the Mvskoke Creek Nation Youth Wellness, Mvskoke Creek Nation Youth Services, the behavioral health offices. All work well with us to try and support these kids and and trying to get them past some of these negative experiences, and it certainly reflects in their their academics and behavior, and so we really don't want to see any student fail. So we do our best to try to overcome those negativities. But yes, sir, they do exist. And with substance abuse and physical abuse and trauma and things of this nature. Now, overall, almost I can say that most of our parents are wonderful people. The families that our students come from are good families, and they just want the experience and the culture and the opportunities that the dorm provides. But yes, sir, that it does happen.
Now, many of young people today are facing some of the negative things you've mentioned, like drugs,
Yes.
Perhaps gangs,
Yes.
and things like unplanned pregnancies and on and on and on. So, what kind of resource do you all have to meet these challenges?
Excellent question, Gary. The things that we do is we've actually had pregnancy prevention classes, offered by Creek Nation Youth Services on campus. We have youth wellness comes in and provides classes, weekly classes on substance abuse, dating violence prevention, and these things, bullying, all these things that students face these days. The gangs. So we try to keep a close watch on that, and when we see our students that could be involved in these activities, we try to get them into these classes and in touch with the right people to address the issues and get them on a more positive path.
And in doing so, one of the things I've heard is that cultural reinforcement helps a lot, whether it's language or some acknowledgement of perhaps some religious preferences or other social connections that come from our tribe, us as Mvskoke people. How does that fit into your program?
That's an excellent question, Gary. That sometimes that is the best remedy. I definitely agree with you there, and we do have some cultural activities on campus. They've done some artwork and done some sometimes we'll have some stickball tournaments on campus, or we have Mvskoke language that comes out once a week. A lot of our students have, especially our younger students, have become interested in that, and it is a tricky situation because we offer our program is open to people of all tribes, even though it definitely a lot of our services and cultural activities are Mvskoke based, but we try to respect all tribes and provide these activities and opportunities. And as far as religious choice, of course we respect all the religious choices, but if they would like to have some church involvement, we try to provide that as well. We before the pandemic, we've actually had allowed youth ministers to come on campus and hold Bible study and fellowship for students that wanted it. And if the student wants to, if they're invited to a local church by a classmate, then we'll take them. We definitely want that to be available to our kids because as you said, sir, sometimes that is the best medicine.
Certainly is, and you can learn a whole lot as a young person about these sorts of things. What about things like sports, cheerleaders, to social clubs? What have you got there?
Yes, sir. So our students basically they can join any club at the public school. And, many of our students before the pandemic, many of our students have played basketball. We have some kids that play baseball, softball, football, and so the VOAG. Some of our students attend the Career Tech Centers, and join those student organizations. So yes, sir, all student organizations are available to them. They're also available to join the Mvskoke Creek Nation Youth Services and student clubs such as that. We usually have, sir, around 70, 80 kids. So we don't have any particular student clubs specific for dorm students on campus, but they have many that are available to them.
The other kinds of things that are important in a school are connections with parents to get some ideas and perhaps some guidance from them. How do you connect with parents with kids being in a dormitory situation all week except for the weekends? How do you make that connection work?
Yes, sir. That's an integral part of our program, Gary. To run the program successfully, you have to have good communication with your parents, and we often do it the old-fashioned way. We just call them up and let them know what situations. I feel like we have a really good communication system with our parents. We've had a number of these students. We've watched them grow from sometimes first through 12th grade. It's almost becomes like co-parenting, Gary. We love the kids, the parent loves the kids, and we all want what's best for them. In a best case situation, and we work together to make it happen. And that's our goal, and that's what we try to foster with our parents is to allow them to have that input, and just work together to make these kids successful.
Do you have like parent, student, teacher conferences? Are those available?
Generally not, sir. Generally, the dorm staff attends the parent-teacher conferences at the school. Due to the long distance, many of our parents, for example, may live in Oklahoma City or Tulsa and have transportation issues. So, we try to, any new student that comes to the dorm, we meet face-to-face with them and their family and, try to run through all the information and get all the information from them that we can at that time. And then, our parents are always welcome to visit their students on campus. And but as far as parent-teacher conferences, not so much. We tend to, we call our parents, about every week, since we've been in the virtual learning. But when the dorm is open, it's kind of as needed, Gary. And one thing we tried to implement new this last year before the pandemic was to have a Facebook page just for our, parents, and where they could kind of communicate easier with us and things of that nature. So we're always looking to improve our communication with our parents.
You mentioned Facebook there, which raises another question. I would be interested in hearing what sort of protections you might have. We hear of the horror stories of kids being contacted by pedophiles or scam artists and things like that. Do you govern what they can do with a computer? Is there some protection there?
Absolutely, yes, sir. And that's definitely a challenge, Gary. In today's education, technology has become definitely interweaved. When I went to school, not so much. We pretty much used book, pencil, and paper, and I taught school on a chalkboard. But more and more, it's going to technology. And so yes, we do have our internet service at the dormitory that our students have access to is provided by the BIA, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and it is filtered so that no inappropriate content. And I feel like because our content is filtered by the federal government, they have some of the best in place, and I feel that in most situations it protects our students from that. But of course, nothing takes the place of good old-fashioned adult supervision. We try to make sure our students are always supervised. We try to foster trust with them, so that way, if they are approached, because I don't think you can ever be 100% fail-proof with filtering your technology. Some of these kids are just brighter, and they know ways in and out and around it. So we try to foster communication, so we'll know when these things happen, and But yes, sir, we try to keep a tight filter on it as well.
You haven't been hacked by the Russians, have you?
Not yet. Yeah, not
No, yet. Okay, but the picture sounds pretty good for the students to thrive in such an atmosphere. But
Yes.
give me a feel for the impact it has with the local community. Is there perhaps a lot of coordination? Is there some resentment or division there? I mean, it can't be perfect. So, how would you characterize that?
As far as students leaving the community to enroll at the dorm, sir?
Well, actually, the school being in that community. I mean, sometimes you can. I'm thinking of movies where you've got townies and you've got school kids and college kids. Yeah. So, how does the community there of Eufaula deal with them, so to speak?
That's an excellent question. I feel that, in most cases, the community has embraced the dorm. Our kids are welcome, but, that's something we have to be vigilant about, Gary. We want our students to receive the best treatment. We do have to, sometimes it is necessary, to challenge the school or the community if we feel that, cultural sensitivity and student rights and racism, if it occurs, and it does, every now you have to just kind of be vigilant and address that, as it happens. I think that it's important that we be advocate for our students. And, you're right. If on occasion, our students can be labeled, dormies, and you have the local kids that can be labeled townies. And so we try to discourage that. Anytime we hear that, our students have been labeled, or referred to in a way that we're not thrilled about, we try to advocate for them, find out what happened, and intervene.
Okay, now all of the news headlines these days are pretty much commanded by the COVID-19 virus. How are you bringing some protections to these kids? I mean, what's the school doing? Are you doing vaccinations, masks, social distancing? What's your program?
Yes, excellent question. When we originally looked at enrolling, we had planned to bring students on campus, and we met with the Mvskoke Creek Nation Department of Health Corona Task Force, and they felt like due to the positivity rate, due to our students being in their local communities every weekend and as many communities as we serve, they did not allow us to open the dorm. So all of our students are in virtual status this year, which means that they're sheltering in place. The Eufaula Dorm has provided all of our students internet service. We still deliver meals to them weekly, 5 breakfast, 5 lunch, and to make sure that they're fed and have the tools that they need to be successful. We have tutors that are available 6 hours a day, 4 hours a week that the students can call, but there's nothing face-to-face. Everything's virtual. I had mentioned earlier we do transport our students to study hall and, athletic events on occasion, and so when that happens, we make sure that the staff and student are wearing the appropriate PPE, and that all sanitation has been followed the CDC guidelines and make sure that all safety precautions have been taken.
Okay, Mr. York, you've really filled us in a lot on the Eufaula Dorm. If someone still had some questions, wanted some information, or perhaps might be interested in enrolling a student, how would they get in touch with you?
Yes, sir. The main line at the Eufaula Dormitory is 918-689-2522, or you can reach us at eufauladorm@gmail.com, and we would be glad to hear from anyone interested. I appreciate it, Gary. I feel like the Eufaula Dorm is a wonderful program and a great opportunity for our native youth.
Okay, well, Mado, we will hope to cross trails in person at some point and come down and visit your school.
Well, thank you. We would love to have you, and I appreciate this opportunity to talk about the Eufaula Dorm. Would like to give a quick shout-out to any students that may be listening today. Let them know that we miss you and look forward to seeing you.
Right. Back to school. Oh, boy. Okay, well, thank you. We are going to take a short pause here, and then we will be back with the new storm warning system that's been put up in a part of Creek Nation. So please stay with us here on Mvskoke Radio.
Who am I? Am I native? I don't want people assuming things because I'm Indian. I just want to be me. But how do I live in two worlds? Some guys just check out by doing meth. But that ain't for me, because I see my family, my friends, my drum making, my future. There are a lot of cool things about being who I am, and meth isn't one of them.
Learn more at ncai.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Welcome back to Mvskoke Radio here on 1240 The Brew. We want to welcome Mr. Bob Howard into our studios today. We thank him for making time, and this is really a busy period in our lives here. We just got over 2020 and into 21. And right off the top of the bat, we're looking at the spring storm season. It's going to be here on us pretty quick. And you've been able to work with one of our communities to help them prepare and have an alternative or perhaps some assistance in knowing if one of those tornadoes is heading their way, right? So first of all, thank you, sir. And now tell me about your office real quick. Give our listeners an idea of what you do.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on this morning. The Office of Emergency Management for Creek Nation provides services to all of our communities. There are a lot of things that the citizens don't know that I found out. I've only been in this position since August. We have 8 shelter pods that are spread out throughout the nation, strategically placed. In case we need to use any of those community facilities, if there's a disaster, tornado, ice storm, any of those things, as a shelter for our citizens. So we have these pods in place already, and they're fully stocked so that we can service our community members. They have a place to stay. They have cots to sleep on. They have sleeping bags. They have personal hygiene items. So we have already prepared for these events with these pods, and they're placed throughout the nation, so that if something were to hit, we'll say in Bristow, we have a pod in Bristow. If it hit in Kellyville, well, we have a pod in Bristow, but we also have one that's in at the Tulsa Community Center. So we can pull those resources in a matter of 15 minutes and have them on site at whichever community center we deem as the site that we're going to open up.
Now, if we're facing massive tornado, which we could likely be, who gets in? Do you have to be a citizen, or is it just serving the community and saving lives?
The centers are specifically set up for our citizens, but they are also ran by the leadership of the community center. We have templates that we have sent out to the communities, an emergency template as well as a hazard template. And then I go out and work with their leadership to define those templates to their areas, because everyone's area is different. No one's exactly the same. Bristow is not Tulsa. Tulsa is not Mvskoke. They're not Eufaula. So we work with the communities to develop their plan within the framework to support the citizens. Now, if there are 10 homes that are hit and 5 of them are citizens and 5 of them are not, those leadership and those committee leaders, they'll come together, they'll do the right thing, because FEMA is going to reimburse the nation. That's part of my job, is to ensure that we receive FEMA funding for these disasters, and we'll be able to take care of those folks. But it is up to those communities and those community leaders. This really puts it on them to manage their facilities. I provide generators, heaters, lights, food, all of the things to go into those pods and into those communities if we have a disaster. But I'm one person in the office. I'm it. So it's up to those communities to own their center and to manage them when we have those disasters. Now, I'll be there, but I can't be there 24 because I have to cover the entire jurisdiction.
Sure. Now, a couple of things that popped into my mind. First of all, what's the capacity of one of these things?
anywhere from 30 to 60. So we have set it up for 40. We have 40 sets at each one of the pods. And of course, I have additional supplies and stockage here in Okemah in my storage area. So just depending what the need is, we can evolve to it.
So, say something does happen here in Okemah, and people are coming in looking for help and shelter. It's up to the local folks then to kind of decide. Let them in.
If there is a disaster, chief will sign a declaration, and we will go into full mode. We'll have our emergency operations center. It'll work in conjunction with Light Horse and my office, the Office of Risk Management, Arbor Care Services. We pool all these services together the moment that there is something. What we have to have from the communities, though, is once Chief signs that and we say, we're going to use your facility, you need to enact your plan. Call in your 3 people that are going to cook the meals on site. Call in your people that are going to be your 24-hour, who's going to be there in an 8-hour shift. And they're not volunteers because we can request from FEMA to pay those folks. But I can't go to your community and say, okay, Mr. Chairman, tell me who those 3 people are. And I want to know, they have to come up with that. I don't know who they are.
Sure.
They know their citizens. They know they're ones that can support and provide assistance when we have one of these types of disasters.
Well, what I was thinking there was it's serving a community, and if you weren't a tribal member, you're probably not going to get turned away if there's a tornado down the road. Just come on in and we'll all get through this together.
Yes, sir.
The
and we work with like the Red Cross, and that's part of my office. We do all of the coordination piece. That's really a lot of what I do is to coordinate with all these other agencies so that our folks are going to be first. And we'll take everyone that we can, but then we will also be able to provide them, okay, you can go here. You can go here. And we can even help take them there. But that's really our response right off the bat.
The Mvskoke News had a piece the other day regarding a new installation in Okemah, a warning siren. Is that correct? Is it still called sirens?
Yes, sir, it is. It's part of the early warning system for the city of Okemah. So back in October, the emergency manager for Okemah, the hospital maintenance folks, myself, council members, Travis Scott, all met because there was an area that didn't provide coverage, which is, of course, the new hospital. Okemah has a siren that is on the south side of I-40, but it sets to the west of our community center and the casino. So the coverage of it, you could faintly hear when they would go off, but if you were at the hospital, you didn't know.
Yeah.
So we came together as a joint venture between the city and the nation and my office, and we went through the entire process, the planning, purchasing, contracting, legislation through our national council, legislation through their city board, and it all, came to fruition just a few short days ago when we put the siren system up and had the first official test.
The situation sounds kind of convoluted because you deal with so many agencies that you coordinate. Served as a public information officer in Alaska, and I was amazed at what I was seeing there with all the different agencies and different kinds of people doing all these different jobs, but it all fell together. Now, do you work in coordination like with the states or the feds, or is it primarily a tribal operation?
I I am the tribal liaison with FEMA for the nation. I work directly with FEMA. I work directly with the Oklahoma Emergency Management at the state capitol. Before I came to work for the nation, I worked full-time for the National Guard, and the last 10 years I was the Guards liaison at OEM. So I have a huge background in emergency management, and I have all the contacts with the state and federal folks. So things that look really hard on the outside for me are not, because I know the guy to call.
That's great.
Yeah. And, we're still working our reimbursement from the flood for the casino, but we received a check. I worked a check for almost $500,000. So we just received that a few months ago.
Now let's focus on Okemah again for a second here. The need. Was that something that the community came forward and said, look, we've got a siren, but you can barely hear it because of the hills in the way or whatever? How did that happen?
Well, no, because the city of Okemah has a hazard mitigation plan, just like we have one, which we're currently updating with the FEMA grant that covers our entire jurisdiction. And it really outlines where you have different coverages for different things. And I mean, it gets very detailed, and we don't want to spend that much time. But it was an identified area. So the Okemah emergency manager, Jim Copeland, got in contact with Representative Travis Scott, got in contact with myself, and then that's how the meeting started. Because it was an identified need. We saw that we needed to do it. We just had to get everybody on the same page. Because it's a joint venture, my office paid for half the system, which comes out of my annual budget. But that's what my budget's for. It's to provide protection to the citizens, just like the pods and the generators, the water trailers that, I mean, if you've been to any of the ceremonial grounds or the churches for any of that, and you see a big water trailer, that comes from my office. So we don't only cover just if there's a disaster. If there's a need and we have the assets, then we provide them.
Right. Are those trailers still known as buffaloes?
Water buffaloes, yes, sir.
You're nuts. The whole process sounds really involved and detailed. Now, how do you know about getting the right equipment? So you've got a siren you just put up in Okemah. Does that have like a geographic distance where you can hear the thing? What are your requirements for something like that?
Yes, sir. So we put them out to bid. There are standard industry standards that they have to meet. The siren that we have is 122 decibels, which is, in OSHA's terms, 85 decibels, you have to wear hearing protection. So that tells you just how loud it is. So that's an industry standard. The siren system that we've put in has approximately a 1 mile radius so that you can hear it. Now, if you're in the basement of the hospital, 30 feet underground, you're probably not going to hear it. But if you're outside or you're close to the exterior of your home within that area, you're going to hear it.
Right. Now, what you hear is something I remember even from my own childhood in Tulsa, being scared to death of tornadoes and things. And we hear them here over in Glenpool, where I live now. And to me, it still activates kind of a fear. Oh my God, what's going to happen now? Is it the sound that you produce? Is there some study or something like we chose this sound because we know people will pay attention, or you can hear it?
No, it's the industry has just the decibel levels.
Okay.
And they don't want it to be too high pitched because then it doesn't work. So the sound is probably in the range of, sometimes when you have cars go by and you see their windows vibrating because they have their radios up so loud.
Oh,
Well, but that puts it in layman so people can understand. So those are a lower frequency, but that more powerful. So that's kind of how it's built, is so that it's not piercing. The sound is not piercing, but it's so that you can almost feel it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I guess I've had them melt my eardrums a couple of times. Well, sir, now as we're going to have to wrap this up, I think. If someone was interested in getting more information about being assisted by your office for whatever reason or whatever need, how do they get in touch with you?
So we work with the CR&D, the Community Resource Development Program. If any of the communities or citizens have anything, they can go through them, or they can contact our office at 918-732-7891.
Okay, great. And in the future, do you have any other projects? Anybody else wanting your help there?
We field questions on a daily basis.
Okay. So you must have a list of.
So we have a list of, and we have a list of priorities and where we have to go.
All right. Well, Mr. Bob Howard, thank you so much. We appreciate you coming in and filling us in. As we get through the tornado season, and chances are we may have you come back and talk to us again.
I'd be delighted, sir.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We're going to take a real short pause here, and then we're going to be back with the State of the Nation address by our Principal Chief, David Hill. Stay with us here on Mvskoke Radio.
Hear that? That's the sound of Hope being killed by meth. Methamphetamine use is causing huge problems in our community. Hear that? That's the sound of something you can do about it. Events like rodeo, res ball, and family time can help keep kids away from meth.
Talk to your kids. Keep our culture alive. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Learn more at ncai.org.
We're going to take a short time to dedicate the rest of this program to listening to the State of the Nation address given recently by our Chief, David Hill. We feel it's important that our citizens know what our leadership has on their minds. So let's go ahead and roll this.
Second Chief Beaver, Speaker Hicks, Second Speaker Proctor, representatives of the National Council, our honorable tribal judges, and to our fellow Mvskoke Creek citizens. After a year unlike any we've ever seen before, I am happy to report to you today that once again we've endured. It is my honor to declare that not only is the state of our nation strong, it is unbreakable. As of the end of December, we now have over 90,000 Mvskoke citizens. Our permanent fund currently sits at $478 million, an increase of over $47 million from the same quarter last year. Quarterly reports with detailed analysis from all of our departments and programs are available on our website. I encourage all citizens to visit each quarter and see how we're doing. Before I go on, I want to acknowledge and honor those who are no longer here today. We have lost our traditional people, our grandparents and our fathers and mothers. We have lost our sisters and brothers. We have lost our best friend and neighbors. We have lost our aunts and uncles and many more. To all that have passed on, we mourn your death and we celebrate your lives. With our heavy hearts, we must press on. Our legacy of survival has prepared us for these trying times. And through our core values of tradition, integrity, dignity, and excellence, we remember the lessons from our elders to not look back, but keep moving forward. I have said many times there was no playbook on my desk on how to deal with a year like 2020. We've experienced historic victories and devastating losses from a virus that has threatened the loss of our people and culture. to the affirmation of our reservation by the Supreme Court, but I'm proud of our response and accomplishments to these moments and would like to share some with you now. We began the year with disease and sickness testing our people. In late February, we assembled a coronavirus task force to address our readiness and planning and took an aggressive approach with our response. Shortly after, we declared a state of emergency in our nation, doing so even before the U.S. government. We closed tribal headquarters to the public and sent home the most at-risk employees and initiated teleworking protocol throughout all departments. We made a difficult decision to temporarily shut down all of our gaming facilities to minimize exposures. Through these interruptions, employees never experienced a loss of pay or their health benefits. We also were able to keep essential service such as childcare, elderly nutrition, and food distribution open and servicing our citizens. And the development of our Play It Safe initiative and safety protocols in gaming allowed us to quickly reopen to the public. I am proud to report that our gaming operation have maintained steady contribution to the nation. In mid-year, we received a historic distribution of funds from the federal government through the CARES Act. We received approximately $312 million to address economic impact and prepare for building tribal infrastructures for current and future situations. We have allocated $99.8 million to education, social services, direct assistance, and food distribution, $93.7 million to MCN and citizens-owned enterprises, $25.5 million to construction and to building a safer workplace, and $17.3 million to our health department, in addition to their own CARES Act disbursement. We utilized CARES money for 3 major construction projects, including a meat processing facility to stabilize our food security and promote food sovereignty, a PPE warehouse facility to manage and safely store our inventory, and a safe space facility to accommodate the need for our employees and guests to be social distance. Our housing department also received approximately $4 million in CARES funding. With these funds, we purchased 2 existing apartment complexes to be used for low-rent housing. The complex in Coweta has 8 units, and the complex in Okemah has 48 units. We also provided PPE for all of our inventoried home tenants, elderly housing, and rental units. We are also working to create new systems to collect payments that allow for social distancing by building a payment annex that will be a drive-through and installing new drop-off location. In the future, we'll be adding online payments as a convenience for our citizens. Through the CARES funding, we recognize a need to provide smaller units for isolation when our critical population is in a crowded home. We are underway with the creation of a 4-unit tiny home addition. The units will eventually be used for homeless and elderly population. Another exciting development from housing is the 3 Ponds Elderly Housing Subdivision. The work began in 2020 and will be complete this year with 72 cottages here in Okemah. When it came to providing immediate needs and support, we contributed funds to 4 major food distribution and giveaway events, which included family meals for the holidays. Thank you to all of our volunteers that stepped up and helped in this time of need. We are grateful for your generous time and efforts, and without you, these events would not have been possible. From the beginning stages of the pandemic, our Department of Health was proactive and rapidly mobilized to combat this disease and protect our communities. They devised triage tents to mitigate the spread at our facilities, developed a Protect Our People Return to Work plan, made testing and screening readily available to the public, and have vaccinated over 6,000 people through our mass distribution events, which receive excellent feedback. I feel our health team is leading the way in vaccination efficiency, and it is a great feeling to hear so many people acknowledge how smooth the processes has been. An ode to all of our frontline health care workers and our staff who have met this incredible challenge and continue to work tirelessly to combat this virus. While we undoubtedly experienced many historic lows, 2020 also brought historic victories. In July, the Mvskoke Reservation was affirmed by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court's decision acknowledged what we've always known, that Congress never disestablished the Mvskoke Nation's reservation. Since the court's decision, we have established the Mvskoke Reservation Protection Commission to strategize and offer solutions to meet the responsibilities that our status requires. Our Lighthorse Police Department has been diligent in pursuing and finalizing over 60 cross-deputization agreements with fellow agencies that are crucial to maintaining public safety on our reservation. We increased the budget of the department by over $6 million and have added more officers to patrol our lands. The Attorney General's Office has increased capacity in tribal code and have added additional prosecutors. We have also partnered with the U.S. Attorney's Office of the Northern and Eastern Districts of Oklahoma to create a pilot program to address missing and murdered indigenous people. As we look to the future, this administration has outlined our goals to achieve better efficiency in our service deliveries to citizens. We plan to achieve this by streamlining our process, reviewing and evaluating our performance, and by listening and learning from our citizens where we can improve. This year we offer paid maternity leave for the first time in tribal history, becoming the second tribe in Oklahoma to do so. We returned a sick leave donation program, and we offered a buyback option on earned annual leave. These are just a few examples of our pledge to employees to continually grow our training programs, update policy and procedures, and evaluate salary and benefit package. To our veterans, we are proud to advance key projects of the previous administration, including plans for national veteran cemeteries, and for the first time in history, the announcement of a U.S. naval ship that will carry the name of the USNS Mvskoke Creek Nation. Our economic goals are to diversify our approach and our partnership through planning and research. We want to seek revenue streams that grow jobs, attract businesses, and expand our ability to serve our citizens through returns on sound investment. We will continue to honor our commitment to our culture and tradition. For our Mvskoke and Yuchi people, the language, the ceremonial grounds, and the churches are what make us who we are. Those values set us apart and call us to remember the teaching of our ancestors. Those values of tradition, integrity, dignity, and excellence. Those values are timeless. They carry us through the devastation of removal, through lawment and forced assimilation, through boarding schools, and the attempted destruction of our spirits. Those same values also inspire us. They inspired our Constitution, our self-determination, our economic growth, and eventually laid the foundation for us to press on and overcome the challenges of 2020. We all are part of this fabric, of this legacy. We have a responsibility to build upon that legacy by serving in our communities, supporting our families, educating ourselves to the highest extent possible, and asking ourselves what we can do to help this nation prosper. Can you serve as a foster family for our children? Can you participate in your local JOM program? Can you mentor our tribal youth and show them a path to reach their greatest potential? Can you check in often with your elders and make sure they have everything they need? We owe our ancestors who survived on the trail. Without them, we would not be here today.
You've been listening to Mvskoke Radio. Join us again next week for more local, tribal, and community news and updates. Madam.